let's imagine now we understand that we want this culture. We've created a knowledge base. We've got some workflows and things like that. There's another issue, is that people sometimes are very territorial or very ego-driven, or like nervous about being wrong, and don't like to ask too many questions about the data, or don't like to either admit ignorance or to be challenged on their knowledge, right? So how do you develop a culture that where people are, being positive and healthy around data skepticism and offering expertise and feedback in a way that doesn't create animosity or concern or negative reactions? And this is a harder thing to do, but it is important to do as well. So one thing is just to have a culture of transparency. So we work with a lot of higher education institutions. That's sort of where we started. And interestingly, if you were to go talk to your academic researchers, there is a culture there in almost any academic or research or scientific paper where it is normal and most often positive to, request citation, or to say, like, I don't understand this. Can you, tell me how you figured that out? Or I've got some questions or concerns about this, and challenging or questioning the use of data or means of things, or asking for more information to better understand something, is just the way it's done. And the reason that that's a good thing to do is that everybody sort of understands or agrees that it's part of sort of the scientific method, and refining and defending and promoting consensus and better results. So kind of figure out how to like take that concept of citation needed as an approach to this. That asking someone, I don't understand, can you explain that, is not challenging them that you think that they're wrong, or that you think that they're bad or ignorant or whatever. It's basically saying, I'd be helpful to understand that for all sorts of reasons, because maybe I want to do it too, or maybe there's other people, or maybe someone else might challenge it, and we just want to make sure that we can trust it. Also, it's not a negative impact on you, that like admitting that you don't understand something, or that you need explanation, or that maybe your perception or assumptions are different and you don't know why. That should be considered a great thing as well. So, there's sort of two things I'm going to talk about. One is this kind of culture of continuous improvement, right? So this is, allowing for continuous improvement over postponed perfection. So meaning that, based on that citation, I think I might go, well, we'll go this way first. But the concept here is that if I'm going to write something, or I'm going to create something, a definition or whatever, it should be okay to go ahead and like put it out there, as long as I've got citations. Like, this is why I'm, I've created a new report and I've documented it well, and maybe I couldn't get sign off by everybody in the universe, or I've written a glossary definition, or I've documented the way that something's been done. It's important to document what you have and what you know, even if you don't have approval or consensus from everyone in the world yet, because the worst scenario is to be doing that anyway, or to be having your own definitions or your own answers and not sharing it. So no one will know that I'm wrong if I don't ever tell anyone how I'm doing it. So the point here is, like, there are no wrong answers, only wrong answers that are secret. So think about it very specifically. I have a definition that I'm using to calculate how many active employees that we have, or what someone's anticipated retirement eligibility date is. And I have my own assumptions on how to do that. The anticipated retirement eligibility date is calculated doing this way. And I've been doing it that way for years. And I never tell anyone. But then someone asked me to document it, and then I'm like afraid to document it, because I like, oh wait, do I really have the authority to make this? Well, I do have the authority, because I've been calculating it that way in secret, or on my own. And if I never put it out there, no one will ever know if they're doing it differently, and we'll never be able to have that conversation about the fact that there are two departments that are calculating this differently, and maybe for years it's been causing, you know, inconsistencies and trust problems and issues. And so putting something out there and in the glossary, adding content, and basically saying, this is the way I do it, I'm going to prove it and put it out there, is great. And then if you've done that, that also then says that it's okay for someone to come along and say, oh, that doesn't look right. I think we do it differently, and to maybe put in a new version or submit a change on that, you know, and it's healthy and appropriate to have that happen. And it shouldn't, you know, try to avoid the sort of the ego around that or the territorialism around that, and take those things as constructive feedback. But the other value that you can get here is that it might be, and this is very common, that that particular person's definition of what their eligible retirement date is and my definition of what an eligible retirement date is are both right, but they're different contexts. Maybe that person is in a US employee and I have a Canadian employee, and they have to have two different rules, or maybe it's you know, whatever it might be. But what we might realize is that we actually have two different contexts, and that both are valid, but we've been calling them the same thing this whole time, and we never realized it. And now that we know, oh, you're talking about Canadian eligibility and I'm talking about US eligibility, let's document those two things and make sure that the context is documented there, right? And that can really help defeat the territorialism by saying, we're still experts, but you're an expert on how the Canadian thing works, and I'm an expert on how the US one works, and I'm so glad we resolved that. So, but if you have a culture where no one's ever even having those conversations or writing things down, you're never going to encounter that. So, you know, there's lots of ways to do this within your culture, but again, I want to sort of say that you need to sort of celebrate when these problems are found, and not treat them from a leadership standpoint, not treat them as, oh my gosh, so-and-so was wrong and so-and-so was right. Like even if there is a right and a wrong, that was wonderful, and I'm so glad that we've